Get started with the first talk. The first talk is Victoria Martin, and she will tell us about love symmetry. Yes.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for the organizers for asking me to speak here today. So today I'm going to talk about a series of works. The love symmetry part is a work in progress that I've put as 12, maybe even 11 here. Who knows? Who knows? But I'll also be touching on previous works with hidden symmetries with these people, with Maria Rodriguez and two of her students, and also Cindy Keeler and Ellen Kritapriya. All right, so it's best to start, I think, with a brief glossary of what's going on, because I know this is a pretty diverse audience, so I at least want to define some of the terms that we're going to be discussing today. So there are two kinds of hidden symmetries, and so potentially two different kinds. Potentially they're related. And so when I have hidden symmetry in yellow here, what I mean is that it is a symmetry in the dynamics and not in the background metric. So usually when we think of space symmetries in gravity, what we think of is a killing vector, a vector L that satisfies Killing's equation. And associated with L is a conserved quantity, right? And it's linear in the momentum in the theory. So these are the Killing vectors that we know and love. However, there are other symmetries that a spacetime can possess. These are called hidden symmetries, and these are symmetries that cannot be found by the background metric alone, and you have to study perturbations around that metric, usually the dynamics of some field, like a scalar field or a spinor on that background. And these give rise to what are known as Killing tensors. So this is a rank 2 one. And Killing tensors satisfy Killing's equations. There can be more indices here. I just put the rank 2 one for brevity. And these are higher order in the momenta. And they also produce conserved quantities, not the same ones. Sorry, that's bad notation. So this is one sort of hidden symmetry that we're going to be looking at. There is another kind that's potentially related. It's hidden conformal symmetry. This does not depend on the existence of the so-called principal tensor that I'll be talking about later. This just means that this is an emergent SL2R symmetry in near horizon radial Klein-Gordon equation occurring in non-extremal Kerr CFT and its extensions. So this means something very specific. So this will be an SL2R symmetry in the near horizon dynamics. It's called hidden because you still have to look at the dynamics in order to see such a symmetry. All right. So these are the two hidden symmetries that we're going to explore. And this one basically, it comes down to matching SL2R Casimir to some sort of, not the full scalar Laplacian, not even the full radial scalar Laplacian, but some approximation, some near horizon limit in the dynamics, okay? And the payoff of this is we're going to be able to extract some temperatures and using known quantities for central charges, we'll be able to apply a Carty formula, potentially assume the presence of a CFT, apply a Carty formula, and show that the entropy exactly matches the Bekenstein-Hawking entropy. This is just an overview. We're going to have a lot more details, don't worry. And furthermore, then lastly, in the title of this talk, I talked about love symmetry. So for the purposes of this talk, I'm simply going to mean globally defined hidden conformal symmetry. So the symmetry generators in this story are famously only locally defined. So it turns out that if you do a suitable global, if you find suitable like globally defined vectors, these symmetry generators can help in extracting the tidal love numbers for black holes. So this is another reason why this sort of symmetry is exciting, and it's why it's got its amorous name here. So we'll talk about tidal love numbers a little bit, but we're mostly going to be focusing on the globally defined nature of these symmetries. Okay, and here's the reference for this. I just put one, but this is now very widely studied. These dots here, there's just too many to name. All right, so this is the glossary, and so I think it's nice to keep in mind a series of questions that we're going to ask during this talk. All right. So the first question is there some connection between the hidden symmetries of separability and integrable systems? I'll describe what I mean by this in a moment. And the hidden conformal symmetry of near horizon dynamics. This yellow one requires something it requires the metric to possess something very special called a principal tensor, whereas this one just depends on the nearer horizon dynamics. So is there a connection between these two? This is the first question. Second question, is there a systematic way to diagnose love symmetry in gravitational systems? So we'll see, this is a very popular topic these days, but so far the way to find love symmetry is a bit ad hoc. It's just dropping terms without sufficient motivation, except that you get the right answer. So we're going to generate this love symmetry. And the third question is, does it exist in higher dimensions? And can we calculate it? All right, so for this one, we're going to use a very special set of spacetimes as our playground. These are called the generalized Lense-Thirring spacetimes, which I'll define. And so the thing about these is the Lense-Thirring spacetimes that we'll be talking about towards the end, these model a large class of slowly rotating black holes. So if you take a higher dimensional Myers-Perry black hole, you take all of the spins, you make them all rotate slowly at each of the directions, and the Lense-Thirring spacetimes are a model for those. So this is of interest. And one of the things that we show in our upcoming work is that these guys possess that principal tensor that is so crucial for separability. And then we're able to solve the system completely. Geodesic motion is completely integrable, and also the equations of motions are separable. All right, so those are the three little questions. So we'll be answering those one by one in this talk. And the big picture question that we can ask ourselves in the end is the overall arching question of this program is, can we always meaningfully describe a CFT to near horizon geometry, as you do in Kerr CFT? This is what you do for Kerr CFT, which deals with the extremal Kerr black hole. Then I'm going to say that you can also do this away from extremality for Kerr. Can you do this for more general black holes in higher dimensions? This is the nature of this program. Okay. All right, any questions before we continue? Or maybe some definitions will help a little bit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, so we work, actually, we don't consider the near horizon geometry itself. Always we're going to be looking at like the near horizon in the dynamics. That's the nature of this hidden symmetry stuff. So we don't care, but I will discuss the relationship with the near horizon geometry. I'll discuss it. Yeah. Okay, so great. So hidden symmetry from the Killing Tower. So this is the yellow kind of hidden symmetry. So this is the one, so there are particular spacetimes that admit something called a principal tensor. This is something, and this you can take as a definition of the principal tensor. This is HAB. This is a factor that depends on the number of spacetimes dimensions. This is the metric in question. All right. And a principal tensor is something that solves this equation. So it is known, so it's a theorem that if you can find, if you get a metric and you were able to find such a tensor, you are going to have a lot of power with your system. What you're going to be able to do is this is going to allow you to generate an entire tower of killing ionoforms. So this one, you just take H and you wedge it with itself some number of times. Of course, this truncates when you get to the space-time dimension. This depends on the number of space-time dimensions, how many times you can do this. So you have an entire tower of killing ionoforms, and these are the things that are going to help you build your killing tensors. So again, I just write the second rank one here. So I have now here an entire tower that J labels the tower of these second rank killing tensors. And these are the ones, each one of these has a conserved quantity associated with it, right? And there's a theorem that if you have a principal tensor like this, there's enough conserved quantities that you're going to be able to have all these very nice properties. So complete integrability of geodesic motion, and then separability of Hamilton-Jacobi, Klein-Gordon, and Dirac equations. And so everything I know about this topic is from this very extensive review by these people, which I do recommend. It's very notation heavy, though. I will say. I'm allowed to say that because I'm working with David now, so I can say. Right. So, and what sort of spacetimes have these? A lot. A huge amount. So this is a huge class of spacetime. So Kerr nut ADS, A is in brackets because it could be DS as well. So this huge class of spacetimes has a principal tensor that's known, and also these generalized Lense-Thirring ones do. This is what we show in the paper, but we will not show in this talk because it is very technically dense. Okay. So that is the yellow kind of hidden symmetry that deals with the metric properties. Now we can talk about hidden conformal symmetry, and let's talk about it in the context of Kerr CFT. So this is the Kerr metric. So delta is a function that I never define, unfortunately. I noticed just before this talk, but it as you can see, it simply holds the information of where the horizons are. Okay. So the way Kerr CFT works is this is the sort of old story by this group in 2008. So if you take the extremal Kerr black hole, so the rotation parameter A is it's as large as it can be, which is m. You take a near horizon limit in the metric. This is the one time we're going to be talking about a limit in the metric in this talk. You take a near horizon limit in the metric, keeping this guy fixed and taking lambda equal to 0. Then what you get, the metric, is this guy, which is right, which yes, I dropped a constant theta slice. So now I've taken a constant theta slice, and this guy, if you put this warping factor equal to 1, gives you an SL2R cross SL2R symmetry. So this is meant to be so Kerr CFT says that there is a CFT potentially associated with this space-time at the horizon. Okay. Now, there's nothing really hidden about this. You can go away from extremality. So away from extremality, you can have a more general rotation parameter, and what you do is you look at the near horizon limit, but in the equations of motion. We are always going to talk about the Klein-Gordon equation. I assume this would work equally well for, a Dirac equation and things like that. But I don't think that that's out there yet. So here we take just a Klein-Gordon equation of a scalar field. This space-time is separable. So, this ansatz is something that we can write, and it works well. So schematically, this is the Klein-Gordon, this is the radial Klein-Gordon equation. This is schematic because we have the radial derivative terms, and we have two terms, each one associated with the poles. So this is the outer horizon for Kerr, and this is the inner horizon. And this NS, there's also non-singular terms. So there's a radial derivative term, there are these pole terms, and then there are these non-singular terms. So the name of the game in hidden conformal symmetry is you take a limit such that these non-singular terms don't matter. We'll talk a lot about this limit. The limit that one takes depends on who you are and what your taste is. And we'll talk about this extensively, but it's not written down on this slide. Right, but so you can see if you've worked on this day and night, or maybe even if you just remember things about functions, geometric functions, and these hypergeometric functions, they transform in representations of SL2R, right? So that's why we see, so this observation, if you can drop these terms, means that perhaps there is some hidden CFT, hidden conformal symmetry in this wave equation. And so this is the pioneering work on this is due to Castro, Maloney, and Strominger. But like I say, this is a sort of Helen of Troy scenario. The whole 1,000 projects has been launched about this. Right. And so now so there is going to be, so the name of the game is we have some sort, we have a clue that there is some sort of SL2R symmetry here. And what if we can find these generators to construct a Casimir that will reproduce this sort of near horizon Laplacian? All right. So what is the strategy for this? So here's the radial. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about that limit that I promised. So this is not schematic. This is the radial Klein-Gordon equation for Kerr. This K is just a separation constant, which we will not really discuss. And so hopefully you can see this. If you can't see the red, it's actually okay, because those are the terms we're dropping anyway. So that's very nice. So the name of the game is that we're dropping these guys, these terms. And sadly, yes, probably is on the next slide. I tell you why we drop these ones. So I'll hold off on that. But the idea is we seek a set of SL2R generators such that their quadratic Casimir matches the near horizon Laplacian. Like I said, this is the SL2R quadratic Casimir. And how do we find such generators? So our strategy is we're going to use some inspiration from ADS3, okay? This talk has nothing to do with ADS3. However, we actually already have a nice set of SL2R cross SL2R generators. The reason is, well, that's the isometry group of ADS3, right? So the killing vectors of these guys are known. So all we need to do is find a coordinate transformation. This is a very powerful technique, by the way, that extends beyond hidden symmetry. If we can find a coordinate transformation that takes us from these SL2R, takes us from these Poincare patch coordinates to our Boyer-Lindquist coordinates, say for Kerr, then we have already a set of generators that is good, that will work. So what do we do? So we're wanting to drop these non-singular terms. So historically, the authors of this work, they saw these terms, they really wanted to get those hypergeometric functions, and they said to themselves, well, I can drop these terms if I define this sort of near region limit, so it's called. So it's later been called a soft hair limit by Hawking, Hawko, Perry, and others. So because it involves the frequency omega of the scalar probe. So if I take these two things to be very small, I can drop this term and away I go. Okay, and so if I'm allowed to drop this term, what do I have? So we're using ADS3 for inspiration. I can make a wise selection of these conformal coordinates. I know that I have two killing directions, phi and t, so I can put them here. I know from experience with things like the BTZ black hole that this is the form that these ought to take, radially at least. And so yet again, the goal is to find this coordinate transformation to take me from these guys to my and match it onto my near region Laplacian. I can do that, and if I do, I find what these are for Kerr. So what these values are. So you find that these two phi directions are related to the left and right temperatures of Kerr. You can take this almost as a definition for what the left and right temperatures are. Okay, and they're given here. And so you get these parameters. That's okay. But the main point is that, so with those in mind, now with this coordinate transformation in hand, we can take these ADS3 killing vectors, and we can now write them in Boyer-Lindquist coordinates. And lo and behold, we have two commuting sets of SL2R generators. But as you can see, they're not globally well defined. So locally, we have two commuting sets of SL2R generators. They're from our ADS intuition, they're guaranteed to have the right commutation relations. But globally, you can see that under the condition phi goes to phi plus 2 pi, these guys are not invariant. So locally, this symmetry is broken down to U1 cross U1. The U1s are the H naughts, H naught and H naught bar. Okay. So the Casimir matches the near region radial Laplacian like we wanted. And furthermore, you can take these temperatures, which are known for Kerr. Okay, we know you can calculate these temperatures by other means, but you can take them, if you take them as a definition of the coefficients here. This is 2 pi tr, this is 2 pi tl. If you take them as a coefficient, then that is a definition for the temperatures, and you can use the central charges for the extremal case, because you kind of want there to be some sort of continuous map between extremality and non-extremality. At least that was the motivation for using those central charges. If you use these central charges, which have been calculated by Castro and Larson to be 12J, J is the angular momentum. Then you get and you assume a Carty formula. So you assume a CFT interpretation of your theory, and you get that it reproduces the area of the black hole. Tell me, yeah. Sorry, so you want to also do a translation in time. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, why can't you do a translation in time to get rid of that? Yeah, no, I see what you mean. So yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, so it looks like you probably could do that, but I guess you want to. So you're going to want to. Let's see. How can I say this? Well, certainly, I think the idea is that you want your theory to have this periodicity, by itself without needing to do that translation in time. This might be one idea of why you need to do this. Yeah. But we can actually there are better reasons for this, so we can discuss after as well. Yeah. Great. Any other questions? Yeah. All right. So why are hidden symmetries interesting? This is just like an overview slide again to give us a little bit of a break and a recap. So these hidden symmetries of separability are interesting because like this principal tensor allows you to know that you have enough conserved quantities to solve your system. And so you have enough of these guys. Hidden conformal symmetry, it doesn't require you to discuss these killing tensors, but you do find like an emergent SL2R symmetry in the dynamics as you go close to the horizon. So the question is like, is there a connection between these? Like perhaps there's some, for example, Kerr famously falls in this class of the things that have a principal tensor, like this Carter constant is an example of the conserved quantity associated with higher order a killing tensor. So is there some link? Is it only spacetimes that emit this principal tensor and these higher order killing symmetries that emit this this emergent SL2R symmetry in the dynamics? This is a question. Okay. There's only one way to answer this question. And this is to consider a counterexample. This is to consider an example of a system that we know doesn't have a principal tensor, at least not that we can find. So the thing with principal tensors is existence is not known. This is actually hopefully a question for machine learning people. Towards the end of this talk, I'll talk about future directions. But so far, you don't know whether you have one, but it's very widely believed that black rings do not admit a principal tensor. So there are many black ring solutions. The two that at least I'm somewhat familiar with, that have been studied by me and others, are dipole black rings and doubly spinning black rings. In this talk, we're going to be talking just about dipole black rings, only because, you know, you should see the Klein-Gordon equation for this one. So this is the Klein-Gordon equation for the dipole one. So we're only going to be discussing this one. And of course, you don't have to know all of this stuff. Don't worry. I'm gonna be just telling you what you need to know. Okay. So black rings, I mean, essentially they have a horizon topology that is S2 cross S1. This is the idea for black rings. And we can study the Klein-Gordon equation of this non-separable system. And really, we have no right to expect anything. We have no right to expect that it contains, you know, a principal tensor, which it probably doesn't. We have no right to think that it should have any sort of meaningful hidden conformal symmetry, but let's go ahead and see. Okay. So to make contact with hidden conformal symmetry, we have to adopt a point of view that generalizes this near region limit. So Castro, Maloney, and Strominger, they like this limit, but this is this limit does not, it's not the most general thing that you can have, okay? So this is a monstrous Klein-Gordon equation, although I'm sure we've all seen worse. It fits on one screen, so that's nice. But you can break this up into a couple of different types of terms, right? In a similar notion to what we did. So the idea that we're going to do is we are going to consider the radial derivatives here, and this term contains the poles. In red here, yes, so in red here are all, so this is a non-separated equation. This is not a radial equation. So we also have the angular part too. We have a mixing term. And coloring these in red was actually a poor choice because I want to make sure that we understand something. In the discussion we're about to have, we are not dropping these terms. There is no dropping of terms like in the normal hidden conformal symmetry story. Our point of view is simply going to be that these are the terms that we're interested in matching to a conformal Casimir. Okay? And in doing this, again, I want to stress, this has no right to give us anything interesting at all. This is just something that one can do. However, we get kind of a surprise in the end. So this is why I'm allowed to show this to you. Okay. So what do we get? So, okay, so this is yet again our goal. We have a candidate for our effective Laplacian, although in this case, we haven't dropped any terms. We're just interested in matching some particular terms. This is just a rewriting of those terms that we're interested in matching. So now this is not an equation. As you can see, this is just an operator. This is the Laplacian. This is like this operator here. K is again a constant, not a separation constant. It's just a constant. And so our strategy is to consider only these things. And what we can do is we can build, in this paper, in this work, we didn't consider building the generators. We didn't do that. We didn't build this Casimir, although that is the goal. That is a goal. But what you can do is you can still extract these temperatures via monodromy techniques and also via conformal coordinate techniques in the limit where one of the radii of the ring is very large. So you can still extract these temperatures using just by studying this effective Laplacian. Though we don't get the generators themselves for the black ring case. So these are just the temperatures, and as you can see, they're very involved. This gamma is just a parameter in the theory. S gamma means sinh of that parameter. C gamma means cosh of that parameter. R naught is one of the horizons. R is one of the radii of the ring. But so the idea is we can calculate these temperatures, and what do we get? So we can compare them to the horizon entropies that have been previously calculated by a completely different means. So these are the horizon entropies of this black ring, and there, yeah. So this is calculated completely separately, and then we can use the temperatures that we calculated from our effective Laplacian and use the known central charges that one ought to use. These have been calculated prior in other contexts as well. And we reproduce, if we assume a Cardy formula, we reproduce these exactly. This is not obvious to me, certainly, why this should work. We had no rights to do this, right? The equation wasn't even separated. We were simply interested in matching our effective Laplacian terms to a Casimir, or at least extracting the temperatures in some way, and then we were able to match these back to the entropy. So that kind of gave us that kind of bolstered us in thinking that, okay, so this is seemingly like this hidden conformal symmetry in the near horizon dynamics. This really looks like it's a very general thing. It's even with a non-separable system. So that allowed us to answer our first question. Is there a connection between hidden symmetries of separability, or of the principal tensor, and the hidden conformal symmetries of the near horizon dynamics? I'm going to say no and yes, even though it's a wishy-washy answer. In our original paper, we just said no. There is no connection because I have found a counterexample in this non-separable system. But after a little bit of soul searching and some talks at this conference, in fact, I've added this yes here too, because even though we can meaningfully means that we can assume a Cardy formula and it actually does reproduce the black hole entropy, we can meaningfully assign a CFT interpretation to black hole spacetime that does not admit a principal tensor. However, the CFT is found in a near horizon limit. yes, it's a near horizon limit in the dynamics, but you know, when you take near horizon limits, in such limits, extra symmetries form. So we shouldn't, yeah, I just didn't want to make this no as strong as it had originally been in the original work. But we can discuss, that's the whole point of this.
Can I ask you a question? So you didn't drop the lead terms in the equation, right? So
right.
And then, but is there still you can try to take a limit? So is there a certain limit where you can drop these terms, or there is no natural limit like that?
So because it's not, I don't think so, right? Like the limit.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, the limit would be very weird indeed, because it would involve, like, these have the theta terms. So you can play games, like you can say, what if I take a constant theta slice? That's not so weird, in fact. That's what they did in the original Kerr CFT. But then, and that was kind of our original thinking. Let's do a limit, because we were so entrenched in this whole limit scheme at the time. But then, like, you have angular derivatives. There's no reason why you should think that those should be small. No reason at all. So the limit thing doesn't really make sense. But the matching, it turns out you get the correct result.
So it sounds like there is no a priori justification for the matching, but it seems to work. And
yes, this is the idea. Yes.
I see. And you think it's explained potentially by the near horizon geometry? Is that the point?
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, so for example, if you, yeah, we were just discussing black rings a little bit earlier in this conference. So even though we're taking so the black ring isn't separable, but the near horizon geometry is. Right. So, but even though, so that kind of leads me to believe that, you know, maybe we are, even though we're taking a limit in the dynamics, maybe just the augmented symmetry as we go near the horizon, maybe there is secretly like a limit in the metric going on too, that's just not very explicit. So that's why I said the yes and the no. Not sure. Not sure. Great. Any further questions? Okay. Let's see. All right. So I wanted to, in this yellow box here, I kind of wanted to give you some insight as to why this would be, like, maybe like why there might be like potentially a connection between these two, or potentially not, right? So let's go ahead and consider a different spacetime just very quickly, the Kerr-Nut ADS spacetime. So this is the radial equation for that spacetime schematic. This is schematic. So all you really need to know is that this x sub r, this holds all of the pole structure in the Kerr-Nut ADS spacetime. And this chi up here, this chi over x of r, this is the stuff that is containing the poles and the non-singular terms. So I've written this out here. So this is from the review of David and everybody. So Kubiznak and Frolov and Kritus, I think. So anyway, so this is this. So these guys. So this chi factor, this involves these are the conserved quantities from the killing tensors that have to deal with separability. And these ones are the conserved quantities from just the killing vectors. You can see, because this x sub r, this one is the one that contains the pole structure. So if you're only interested in matching the pole terms, guess what is the only thing you drop or don't match? It's precisely the things, it's precisely the conserved quantities that have to do with separability that you do not need to find this what, hidden conformal symmetry. So I thought that was kind of a nice little observation. Right, so these are the ones you don't need. All right. So now we've answered our first question, and we've answered it twice, both yes and no. That's how good we are. So, and now we're moving on to our other two questions, which these both have to deal with love symmetry. So now it's time for me to define what that is a little bit. So for the purposes of this talk, when I say love symmetry, it means that there is an emergent SL2R symmetry, like we've been talking about, in the radial wave equation, in which the SL2 generators that I'm pointing to here, this H0, H1, H minus 1, are globally well defined under this phi goes to phi plus 2 pi. Okay, this is, why do we want this? Well, first, it's just it's more palatable to have globally defined generators. But it turns out, so this discussion is based on a series of works, these pioneering works by this group here. One for each year that it came out, probably more than that. And this group also has made some contributions. Sorry, I totally lost track. So right, so these are the people who are working on this. And so yeah, why is this important? It's because these symmetry generators that are globally well defined, they also play a role in helping us extract tidal love numbers from the black holes that we're studying, right? So I'll just say this, unfortunately, or for better or worse, in this talk we won't be talking about the love numbers exactly. I'm just going to be motivating why we might be interested in these generators. But the tidal love numbers, they've kind of gotten a new lease on life lately because, you know, now there's gravitational wave data coming in. It's looking like we might be able to match theory and experiment. At least that's what we would like to say on the grants. So tidal love numbers, basically how you extract them is you look at your radial equation. L is the multipole number if it's a separated equation. And you take the limit to infinity, and you have growing and decaying modes, and you extract this coefficient, and the real part of this lambda is what you call the love number, and it's called tidal. It's how a black hole. It's a sort of linear response situation. Like if you kick a black hole, what does it do? This is the idea. So people have been kind of interested in these lately. And I mean, another palatable thing about these globally defined generators is that these ones have a smooth, well-defined Schwarzschild limit, whereas the prior in the original work did not. So because of these reasons, it seems like these globally defined generators really should have been the ones we were considering all along. And that's why people are interested in these. Okay, so how does this work for Kerr? So for Kerr, this is our previous radial wave equation, and prior, like we took this near region limit with omega m small and omega r small, and we dropped these terms. The thing that you do to find the globally defined love generators is they take a more drastic view in which they drop these same terms, these omega m, omega r terms, but they also drop an seemingly arbitrary amount of the r minus pole. Why are you allowed to do that? I mean, and it's consistent like this. You can, if you could see this, I'm not even sure if you can, but if you can see these red terms, you could see that like they all also involve omega m or omega r. So it's consistent. It's consistent with the previous near region limit. However, like what they're intrinsically assuming as well is that you're very far away from you're far enough away from the r minus pole, so this shouldn't matter. Okay, fine. So if you drop this term, you can play the same game, this matching game of matching a Casimir to this new effective Laplacian where you've dropped part of the pole. And I'll just tell you the answer. The Casimir that matches this resulting Laplacian is built from these generators. Okay, these are the generators where delta is the same thing that contains the horizon information. Kappa plus is the surface gravity of the outer horizon. And I think that's the only thing happily on this slide that I didn't define on my previous slides. where I define nothing. So these are the answers. And so you can see that these ones are, because they don't have a phi in the exponent to mess it up, this is a set of SL2R generators that is globally well defined. That's good. That's it. So a second question is like, is there a way to systematically find what term, how do you know what term you should drop? Yeah, I guess you can, try to find the right answer and work backwards. This is what I'm assuming happened, but it would be nice to try to just work forwards only. Okay, so this is the purpose of the second question. And our strategy again is to define these wonderful conformal coordinates. H is just a function of the radial coordinate. Its form is not important, and in general, it's not determined. H is something that we determine ourselves in the matching of the Laplacian and the Casimir. So this is a general, if you will, ansatz for the conformal coordinates. Okay, it's of course not as general as you could have, but it's general in a sense that you have undefined parameters. And so there are two choices, and these are the generators that result from this coordinate you can just do this coordinate transformation from the ADS generators that form SL2R cross SL2R and algebras, and you get these guys. Great. So, but these ones, so you have two choices to render these globally well defined, right? You can either set alpha to 0 or gamma to 0. It doesn't matter which one you choose. What matters is the only thing that it will select is that which ones play the role of the SL2R, the bars or the unbarred generators. All right. So from now on, we'll just be working with gamma is equal to 0. Although I don't know if I actually set it equal to 0 very often, because I like the symmetry of these operators. So the Casimir that results from the generators that we built on the previous slide is this one. So it's actually pretty simple, given how complicated those generators were. And our strategy is going to be to match only the radial derivatives and outer horizon pole terms to the Casimir and the Laplacian. So you can kind of tell that we're using some inspiration from the black ring, right? We're not trying to find some limit where this works. We're just only interested in matching certain terms. So, for example, this is the full radial Laplacian for Kerr, and we're only interested in matching the radial derivatives and the outer term. So we're only interested in matching. So just to be clear, we're interested in matching these blue terms to these blue terms. Okay, so if this wasn't clear in previous slides, how this matching goes, hopefully finally now is more clear. Okay, so we simply try to match these guys. And we can do this in a series of steps. So matching the derivative pieces, it fixes, this is still the Kerr example, so this is still just an example. So matching the derivative pieces, this hellish thing and this small guy, it fixes what H is. I could have written the explicit form of what H is, but it's not important. It's known for Kerr what this is already. So we didn't have to calculate it, but you can solve this equation. You can solve this simple differential equation and find out what H is. And then you can also find out what these parameters were in the conformal coordinates by matching the non-derivative terms. It's a pretty simple exercise. And you set gamma equal to 0 yourself. You set this equal to 0 by hand to get global well-definedness. And then you find a sort of family of solutions here for the other parameters. Delta is equal to plus minus kappa plus. And then beta and alpha are related by this equation. Omega plus is the angular velocity of the outer horizon. Okay, now the love numbers by the love generators that were found by Ivanov, Charamboulos, the other person, I'm sorry, The name is written down. These were, yes, sorry. This is a subset of these solutions. So this is a subset of these. So when beta is equal to 0 and you choose the top set, you get the previous love numbers that were, or love generators that were proposed by Dubosky and collaborators. So these are the generators that you get in general. But if you set beta equal to 0 along with gamma, then what you find is that alpha has it's good to set. I like setting beta equal to 0 because when you do, alpha has the same pleasing shape as before. You know, it's related to 2 pi times the temperature, and then this fixes delta to be this. And right, so now we've kind of the virtue of this, if there is virtue to it, is that we found the same answer. In fact, we found a set of globally defined generators. And we found this not by dropping anything in a sense, but by simply matching. We didn't keep any of the R minus pole. We didn't need that, right? Previously, in previous work, they kept part of that pole and they dropped part of that pole. We didn't, here you don't even have to consider it and you get the right answer. So this is the idea. I think that this is secretly what's going on behind the scenes. So our second question that I had asked previously, like, is there a way to systematically determine the love symmetry generators? And I think so. And I think that, this is what we've just outlined. And so we can use our result from question 2 to ask our third question, which is, does love symmetry exist in higher dimensions? And this is going to be where the Lense-Thirring spacetimes come in. Okay. And so, okay, what are these spacetimes? So this is a metric of a multiply spinning spacetime. And I'm not going to define hardly any of these things. N is a function of radial coordinates. In fact, all of these guys are. But F is the important one because it has the information about the poles. Mu are the angular coordinates. They satisfy this relationship. And the metric emits a killing horizon generated by the following killing vector. So this is important to point out because this is actually the thing that all of the spacetimes, the large class of spacetimes that we've discussed so far, have in common. All of them have this killing vector that generates on the horizon, that generates the horizon in the sense of Wald. Okay, so it would be interesting to work in a spacetime, that doesn't admit such a thing, but they all have this killing vector. And so this metric, as I've mentioned before, this metric turns out to admit a principal tensor that we will not discuss, but it's kind of a cool thing that it does. So the radial Klein-Gordon equation for the spacetime is given by this guy. So here we have, some derivative term. K is a separation constant because it has a principal tensor. It's separable, so we were able to separate it. That's what this is. And these are the sort of terms that we want to match. So in this case, we want to match, I should have colored these blue, but it's clear. So, well, maybe this is why I didn't. So we want to, this is the Casimir. So we want to match these blue terms to something here. So this is the hard part about higher dimensions, is that what am I supposed to match? So the derivative terms are clear, but here I have to try to separate the poles to extract some information about the outer horizon. Okay, so in the end, that's what we end up doing. So this is still a work in progress, but the idea is that we can match the derivative terms like always. Okay, we we don't say that the derivative terms actually equal each other, but that they're at least proportional to one another. And then the solution to leading order in the near horizon expansion. So this term plays the role of delta, like Kerr. This is the one that contains all of the pole structure. And we're always allowed to rewrite this term that contains the pole structure. We're always allowed to go ahead and extract the information about the outer horizon. And then you have a leftover equation E, which stands for everything else. Okay. So in order to make this work in higher dimensions, I will say it's not enough to just carry out this naive matching. You need to go a step further, which is you need to take like an actual near horizon limit in the dynamics. So you need to approximate this E function, because so these F and G's, these are just general functions. This is a very general metric. So in order to make this work in general, you need to kind of expand this everything else near the horizon. So far we've done in linear order to get this radial function, but probably quadratic order is needed. So we're for reasons that I will not explain. So we're still working on that. Right. But we can also, so that's to match the radial part. To match the angular part, we should, which phi direction should we privilege? So we take a specific combination of phi directions, which it's a linear combination that involves the angular velocity at the horizon. And this choice is inspired by this important killing vector that all our spacetimes have. Okay. So we can carry out this matching with a more forceful near horizon approximation in the dynamics, and we can find what these parameters are, and where this kappa plays the sort of role of surface gravity, but it's just related to this effective everything else sort of pole. And the love generators turn out to be these. This is very similar to Kerr. This is essentially the whole situation with Kerr. So for Lense-Thirring spacetimes, it seems now that they just look the hidden conformal or the love symmetry behaves very similarly to the Kerr black hole when you get close enough, which may or may not be a surprise. But like I say, this is some stuff we're still working on here. All right, so this is my last slide. So for future directions, yeah, there are a few. So love numbers in higher dimensions. So once we get a handle on these symmetry generators, we can maybe hope to extract tidal love numbers. And we can go back to the black rings. Like I say, for the black rings, we didn't build those generators. We were less interested in that at the time and more interested in monogamy and extracting those temperatures. So this is something that one could do, or one could attempt. And then, a question maybe for machine learning folks, just, in terms of separability, I'm wondering, like, given a metric, I wonder if one can search for conserved quantities that are proportional to higher order in the momenta. And maybe if you were to find those conserved quantities through some sort of algorithm, like this could tell you that a spacetime is separable or not. So sometimes spacetimes don't look separable, but they secretly are. So it would be nice. On one hand, you can try to find a principal tensor, and then there's that theorem that gives you those conserved quantities, or maybe you could just try to hunt down those conserved quantities, for a given metric. And then I don't know how to do this, by the way, just wanted to tell you. Yeah, then number 4 is like, what about spacetimes that don't possess a killing vector like this? That might be nice to look at. So those are just a few future directions, and I am right on time. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, time for questions. Yes.
Right, but the CFT part, right, the CFT, so, have you written down how L minus N for N greater than 1 operates on the space-time?
No, so no, we usually just are looking at the three generators, the 0, +1, -1. We don't no, no, this is not known for any, not just for any of the hidden conformal symmetry structure. This is not, these are not constructed, I don't think. I would have to check. Right. Yes, I think that's right.
Okay, any other question? If not, oh yeah, okay, please.
Your rising limit in the gradient of the
No, the principal tensor, no. The principal tensor is not in. Yeah, this is why I think the black ring works, right? Because like if you just consider the near horizon geometry of the black ring as a standalone geometry, certainly that admits such a tensor.
Okay, any other question? Okay, if not, let's thank the speaker again.